Okay, listen, what we're going to do is we're going to play a little imagination game now.
Okay.
So in this imagination game, I'm not going to hold anything, you're going to hold the coin the whole time. And in this imagination game, you can decide that you're going to be a liar or a truth teller. So everything you say is a lie, don't tell me which one it is. You can be a liar and everything you say is a complete lie. It's the opposite of the truth at all times. Or you can be a truth teller and everything you say is a complete truth. Decide in your head now which one you want to be. Don't tell me. Have you decided?
Yeah.
Yeah? Sure? You want to be a person who tells the truth all the time? Just for the sake of this game, that's all.
Okay, I'm telling you.
No, don't tell me.
Oh, okay.
So make a decision now. You're either going to tell the truth or you're going to lie. It's up to you.
All right.
In your head, you know what you're going to do. Put the hands behind your back and put the coin in either hand. Okay? Keep your hands closed and bring them out. So the coin could be in either hand. Now, according to the decision you made about being a liar or a truth teller, whichever, answer in that character, okay? So yes or no, it's a coin in this hand. It is. Okay, I think I've got you worked out. I need to do one more thing. Put your hands behind your back and swap hands. Swap the coin into your other hand or keep it in the same hand. It's up to you.
Okay.
You done it? Bring your hands out. And again, in the same character of liar or truth teller, yes or no, did you swap hands? I now know two things about you. Firstly, you're a terrible liar, which is why you nearly always tell the truth. And secondly, the coin is here, right? I'm going to play it with you, okay? So you're going to hold the coin. Just hang on to it for a minute. Here's the game we're going to play. Just an imagination game. Super easy. So right now, you're going to decide what kind of role you want to play in our little imagination game. You can be either a person who tells the truth or a person who lies. Don't tell me. But you decide right now in your own head whether you want to be a person who lies or a person who tells the truth, just for the duration of this little game. You got it? And if you decide you're going to be a liar, then everything you say, anything I ask, anything you reply has got to be lies. But if you decide you're going to be a truth teller, anything you say has got to be the truth. We good to go? Yeah? Okay. I want you to put your hands behind your back, put the coin in either hand. And then bring your hands out, hiding the coin, so it's hidden in one of the hands. And now in your role as a liar or a truth teller, just answer me this question. Is the coin in this hand, yes or no? Okay. Oh, I've nearly got you. I've nearly got you. I think I'm going to have to ask one more question. Put your hands behind your back again and swap the coin or keep the coin in the same hand. It's up to you. Do whatever you want to do. Bring your hands out. In the same character, liar or truth teller, yes or no, did you swap hands? I now know two things about you. One, you're a terrible liar, which is why you nearly always tell the truth, and you should. And also the coin is here, right?
I'm Mark Elson, this is Tequila Hustler, an absolutely killer anytime, virtually crop-free mentalism effect. So what happens is you say to the participant that you're going to play a little imagination game. They get to play the role of either a liar or a truth teller. They take a coin out of their pocket, they hide it in either hand. You ask them two simple questions and you can tell them exactly whether they lied or told the truth and where the coin is. And the great thing is there's no gimmicks, no gaffes, just some pocket change, no coins, just use a ring. Use anything that's to hand. And then if you want, the second follow-up phase, which I always include, not only can you tell them that, but you can then tell them exactly what the date is on that coin. It's prop-free mentalism at its finest, and I guarantee if you use it once, you'll use it forever. So this is the explanation and background about Tequila Hustler. You've probably heard some of the buzz that's been going on around this routine. It has got a lot of kudos from various places in the mentalism community and has already found its way into the repertoires of magicians and mentalists around the world. And no doubt after you've watched this download, it will find its way permanently into your repertoire too. So Tequila Hustler is the idea of being able to do the coin in hand effect, or in fact anything in hand. So you could use a finger ring or a banknote or many other variations which we'll come to later in this download. And with just a couple of questions, you can tell the spectator exactly where it is. So the thing that differentiates this between any of the other previous versions is that the logic puzzle aspect is relegated to just the presentation rather than being the method. So let's just talk a little bit about what Tequila Hustler is and where it came from. So let's just talk about the origins of Tequila Hustler. It all started in Apocalypse, Volume 1, Number 6 in 1978, when Gerald Kosky published his Routine to Tell the Truth, which took the old logic puzzle of the truth teller and the liar and made a magic trick out of it. And it was a great and innovative piece of thinking, and later it led to Banachek's Ring of Truth, which he published in Psychological Subtleties in 1998, and then Barry Richardson, Rick Murray, and various others had versions, and they were all interesting for different reasons, and all found their way into the repertoires of people and performers around the world, but they all suffered from the same problem. And the problem is that the presentation is the method, which is the logic puzzle. Now that logic puzzle, the old kind of truth and liars logic puzzle, I'm just looking at my notes here to get these correct. Maurice Krajcik first published it in Mathematical Recreations in '53. Raymond Smullyan published it in one of his books, and I first read about it in one of Martin Gardner's collections of his mathematical puzzles and diversions column from Scientific American. And the puzzle is in fact far older. And the logic puzzle, there's many variations of it. It's along the lines of a tribe of truth tellers and liars on an island. One tribe is cannibals, one isn't. And a stranger comes to a fork in the road and he asks a question. And what question can he ask to know which path leads to safety and which path leads to certain death at the hands of some cannibals? And so the question is always along the lines of, if I was to have met a person of the opposite tribe and asked them the question, does this road lead to freedom, what would they say? Now, if, as you're listening to this, your brain, like me, is hurting as I'm explaining it, you'll see the problem with these kinds of effects. The problem is that it seems very clear and simple once you know the answers, and if you're the person performing it, but to a participant witnessing the effect or being engaged by it, it's massively confusing at the best of times. And so what I've done with Tequila Hustler is I've taken away the logic element from the method. So yes, the performance of it still has liars and truth tellers, but that is now just the presentational theme. The method no longer relies on some torturous logic to figure out which hand the coin is in. So let's get down to exactly what the method for Tequila Hustler is then. So Tequila Hustler, the actual words Tequila Hustler, are an anagram, and they are an anagram of lies equal truth. Because the simple secret to the method for this is this. And I'm going to tell it you in one sentence, and once you hear me say this sentence, you'll think, yes, and, because there must be something more to it, but there is not. And the question is this: they hide a coin in their hand, they can be lying or telling the truth. Whatever they say, you believe them. So, if they are telling the truth, if they are lying, it's irrelevant. You just assume they are telling the truth. So as you'll see from the many performances that you'll have already watched, if you look back at them, I just ask the same question each time. So the participant is given the coin to hold, and they put it behind their back, or I'm turned away, or whatever. Then they bring their hands out, and I point at their right hand, and I indicate to them, is the coin in this hand? Now bear in mind, at this point, they're playing a role of truth teller or liar, and I don't yet know what it is. And so when I ask them, is the coin in this hand? If it is in this hand, for example, it is in my right hand now, and they say yes, then I could think they're telling the truth because they said yes, but of course if it was in this hand and they were lying, they could still say yes. So if I was to go down the logical route again, I would get lost and it would be horrible. So instead, I simply assume they are telling the truth. So if I say to them, is the coin in this hand, indicating their right hand, and they say yes, I assume that they are telling the truth. That's it. And then when I ask them to put the coin behind their back again and swap hands, when they bring their hands out and I say, did you swap hands? Whatever they say, I assume they were telling the truth. So if they said yes to the coin being in their right hand at the beginning, and they say, yes, I swapped hands, I now know the coin is in their left hand. And if they said yes at the beginning that the coin was in their right hand, and then they say no, they did not swap hands, I believe them. I assume they didn't swap hands, and the coin is still in their right hand. Now, as you're watching this, if you're hearing this for the first time, this will seem massively counterintuitive, and you'll think, now wait a minute, that can't work. But just as in maths, how two odd numbers always add to an even number, this is exactly the same. Now, I've already worked out all the logic trees, so you don't have to. But trust me, the logic of this is sound, and in thousands of performances by myself and other people, it works 100%. And if you want to do the logic trees of the yes, 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 no, no, yes, and no, no answers for both the truth teller and the liar, you're more than welcome to do so. And it's ground that you will enjoy if that's the kind of thing that will satisfy you, that the method is at 100% bona fide. But I can promise you from experience and from my own research into the logic aspect of it, that it does work 100%. So just to clarify once more, whatever they say, you believe them. If they say the coin is in their right hand, you think it's in their right hand. If they say no, it's in the other hand, you think, okay, it's in their left hand. And then once they switch behind their back, when they come out and you ask them again, did you swap? You believe them. If they say they kept it in their right hand, it's in their right hand. If they say no, they swapped and put it in their other hand, it's in their left hand. And if it started in their left hand, because they said no the first time, and you say, did you swap? And they say no, still in their left hand. And likewise, if it was in their left hand to start with, and they say they did swap, it's now in their right hand. It does not matter whether they are lying or telling the truth. So the next question to answer then is, in the performances you saw, I tell them whether they were lying or telling the truth. So how was I able to do that? How was I able to tell them if they were lying or telling the truth if I don't know? Well, the whole thing is an elaborate bluff. So the two statements I make to them are, I now know two things about you. Number one, you're a terrible liar, which is why you almost always tell the truth. And number two, the coin is in your right hand. Now, of course, one of those things I know with 100% certainty. I know that the coin is in their right or left hand because that's what the Tequila Hustler methodology has allowed me to know. And of course, from their viewpoint, if I know one thing, I must know the other. Because how could I possibly know which hand the coin was in if I don't know whether they're lying or telling the truth? It would be impossible for me to know. And because I do know, then I must know whether they were lying or telling the truth. And so it was this question, and in fact, after the initial idea for Tequila Hustler had over a period of months, occurred to me, of getting rid of the logic puzzle as the method, and coming up with these, devising the two questions, is the coin in this hand, yes or no, and did you swap yes or no, then that was, in actual fact, the easy bit. It took me more time to work out the second question than it did to work out the basic methodology. The second statement, the statement of, I now know two things about you with absolute certainty. Number one, you're an absolutely terrible liar, which is why you almost always tell the truth. And number two, the coin is in this hand. So it's the wording of that statement which sells the whole routine. Otherwise, it's quite a mundane effect, really. The coin's in that hand. So what, 50-50, who cares? So, and as you'll have seen from the performance of it, I set it up as an imagination game. So at the intro is I say to the participant, listen, we're going to play a little imagination game. Straight away, their interest is hooked. What does that mean? What is an imagination game? Who knows? But, I look like a fun guy. We're in a fun place. We're having, good times are happening. They perhaps see me working for other people. There was laughter. There was applause, whatever. So when I say to them, look, do you want to play a little imagination game? Then straight away, it's an interesting hook. So, and that is the opening line of the presentation. So as soon as I say we'd like to play an imagination game, they say yes, say great. So here's what's going to happen. You're going to play a specific role in this little imagination game, and the role can be one of two kinds. One, you can play a dirty, stinking liar, or two, you can play an angelic truth teller. So if you're going to be a liar, then anything you say, anything I ask you, anything you respond, any information you volunteer, must be a complete lie at all times. And alternatively, if you want to be a truth teller, then anything you say, anything I ask, anything you respond, any information you volunteer, must be the absolute truth. So are you clear on that? Yes. So decide in your head now which role you want to play. Have you got it? Okay. So, and is there any way I could know? There isn't, right? And he couldn't know, she couldn't know, no one. The only person who knows in the whole world is you. So that's the first thing only you know. We're going to decide on something else that only you know. What I'd like you to do is I'd like to take the coin and I'd like you to put it behind your back and hide it in either hand. Now I think you'll agree once again that there's no way I could know, no way anyone could know. A second thing no one could know. So here's the question I'm going to ask you, and you must answer in character as the liar or the truth teller. Is the coin in this hand? And I indicate their right hand. So they will say yes or no, depending. And then I say, fair enough. Now, of course, we know the rules. Whatever they say, I believe that to be true. So if they say yes, it is, I assume it is yes in their right hand. I say, so put it behind your back again. Swap hands. Did you swap hands, yes or no? And then, depending on their answer, I believe them. No, I didn't, so I now know the coin is in their right hand, and I come into the ending statement. I now know two things about you. One, you're an absolutely terrible liar, and secondly, the coin is in your right hand. So that's the basis of the presentation. That's the imagination game kind of setup, the explanation at the beginning, and if there's one secret, another secret, should I say, to the successful performance of this routine, it is clarity. So you must be very clear with the spectator, the participant as I prefer to call them, but spectator, however you choose to term the person who helps you with these effects, then so long as you're clear with the participant that the rules are very simple. They must lie the whole time or tell the truth the whole time. Now there's a couple of additions to mention that you will have seen, things that I do sometimes in the performance, or things that are little extra controls that will help you have success with this. Firstly, if you're doing it somewhere where it's very loud and noisy, or the person has something to drink or whatever, then what you don't want is a pause to give the game away. So you say to them, instead of saying, is the coin in your right hand, is the coin in this hand, yes or no, as the first question, I say, listen, here's what the first question is going to be. The question is going to be, is the coin in this hand? Don't answer me now, just think about it for a second. Because obviously if they're telling the truth, it's an easy answer. But if they're lying, they're going to have to think about it. And if it's noisy, and if it's late, or if they've had a few beers or whatever, you don't want that pause to give the game away that you now know whether they're lying or telling the truth. So if that's the situation, I do that. The other thing is that I often imply that I'm only going to ask a single question. So I don't come out at the beginning and say, I'm going to, here's the trick, I'm going to ask 2 questions and I'll know which hand your coin is in. It would be the wrong way to perform it. So at the beginning I say, so I'm going to ask you a single question. And think about it before you answer. Answer in your role as liar or truth teller, is the coin in this hand? And they say, no. Now, according to the rules of Tequila Hustler, lies equal truth. So I assume the coin is in their left hand. And I say, do you know what? I'm having a bit of trouble with you, actually. So I think that was kind of a good baseline response. But I don't want to get this wrong, so I'm going to ask you one more question. So put your hands behind your back, swap or don't swap, and then you ask them, okay, looking them directly in the eye, did you swap? And then whatever their response, you assume it to be true, and then you say, okay, now I've got it. Now I understand everything about it. So I now know 2 things about you. 1, you're a terrible liar, which is why you almost always tell the truth, and number 2, the coin is in this hand. So it's almost like the second question is an afterthought. I imply I'm only going to ask them 1 question, and the question is the coin in this hand? And then I act as if I'm struggling with them somehow because of the, whatever's going on in the circumstances, or I find them difficult to read, or they're a great poker player, however they want to interpret it. And then the second question is like an afterthought. Although in actual fact, of course, as we know, the second question is mandatory for the method to work. But nevertheless, I make it seem as if I just came up with that in the moment because I was having trouble. But that normally I only ask a single question. So, by the way, just out of interest, I do have other versions of this, which we won't be going into in this download today, but with no questions. So if you're a fan of Tequila Hustler as a whole, look forward in the future. There will be more work on this by a lot of other creators who've got ideas and extensions to it. The purpose of this download is to teach you the basic principle and the routine that I use nearly every single day of my life. But if you fall in love with this as I have, then further down the road there will be more for you to look at, read, learn, and indeed I invite you to have spend some time developing your own thoughts on the subject as well, because all magic I think is a work in progress. So it'd be good for you to put some of your own spin on it. So and if you come up with anything fantastic, of course, please email me. Just some other things I want to mention. Firstly, that I've mentioned already that there must be great clarity to this routine, but the scene must be set in terms of what this is and what this isn't. So let's be clear, first of all, this is not the trick with which David Blaine will be ending his next network special. Rather, this is a casual performance trick for the right moment. It's a great coffee shop trick, great trick in a bar. I have used it very successfully at paid performances, but I don't think this is an absolute powerhouse trick to, close a stage show with. However, this Tequila Hustler trick was born out of my conversationalist mentalism approach to performing, which is casual pieces of magic and mentalism specifically that you can do any time that don't need many props. And so this, whilst it is kind of designed for that casual environment, can do double duty and is strong enough to work at a paid gig. But the ethos of it is quite a casual thing. As you'll see from the performances, I present it quite tongue-in-cheek. I'm not a hugely dramatic mentalism performer, and my persona is geared specifically to play to my strengths and not my weaknesses. And so the whole thing is presented as a gently amiable kind of challenge that I can figure out how you're thinking. That is kind of my mindset as I come to the performance. So we spoke there so far then about the basics of the Tequila Hustler methodology, the background, and some other things that will make sure that it works 100% for you. I'd just like to talk a little bit about the extensions to the effect, some of which you've seen already in the performances and some of which you haven't. Now the next thing, of course, is that I only use Tequila Hustler as phase 1 of a 2-phase routine. And so what I do after I identify which hand it's in, and I tell the participant, now I know exactly how you think and how you lie, we're going to try another test. I then invite them to look at the date on the coin. And again, I ask them some questions and I identify the exact date. Let's talk about how I know what the date is, first of all. Simply, it's this. I have the coin finger palmed. This is a coin I already know the date of. This is a 1985 coin. So I know the date of this coin. And this is just in gentle, casual finger palm. So there's no great sleight of hand required here. Although that's not an excuse not to learn great sleight of hand, by the way. But this is just in a very casual finger palm. This is just down by my side. So I come to a group of people and I say, hey guys, I'm already with some people, maybe sat in a coffee shop or bar, or we're eating pizza, or we've come out to the cinema, whatever we're doing. I say, look, I want to try this little imagination game with somebody. Has anyone got a pocket full of change? And we need a coin. So as soon as someone comes out with a pocket full of change, so, just got some quarters, dimes, pennies, whatever. So I literally just come over, and generally a couple of people will bring them out, or someone will open their purse and start to get some coins out. And all I do is I come over with this coin, I kind of add it in, and I just pick it up. So this is just in this just general casual finger palm. And as I pick up some coins, I kind of pick up and I say, you know what, we'll use one of these, we'll use a quarter because it'd be easier for everyone to see. So all I've done is I've added in my own coin. So these coins now go away. Now, of course, this is costing me a coin every time. It's costing me 25 cents I perform the effect. Cheaper in England, where it's only 10 pence. But you do want to use a coin that's big enough for them to read the date on. These are hard to see, both as you get older and in the low light of many performing conditions. It's not that easy to see in the strong light of the studio here today. So certainly a tiny coin would pose problems. So now I've switched in the coin that I know the date of. But later it will seem, they will forget. There's a whole thing going to happen. The Tequila Hustler first, the basic effect is going to happen before the date on the coin is even mentioned. And so it will seem like I never touched the coins. So, and again, the vibe is I'm just kind of being generally, helpful. And of course, if this moment was taking place on stage, where someone's got a thing and I've got a palm a thing in and add it, and there would be some heat on it. But in the casual environment of sat round, just chatting with friends, or in a social group with new people you've just met at a party or whatever, then it's very easily done. There's no heat on the moment at all. So I perform the initial Tequila Hustler thing. I identify which hand the coin is in, imply that I knew whether they were lying or telling the truth, and then I say, okay, so now I know exactly how you think and what you sound like when you lie. We're going to try one more thing. What I'd like you to do is look at the date on the coin, and I'd like you to tell me any 5 dates. One of them will be the correct date on the coin, and the other 4 dates can be any dates you want. So, for example, if the coin was 1990, you might just say 89, 90, 91, 92, 93. So, or you could jump around. You could say 83, 2001, 92, 90, 87. So it's up to you. You do what you want. So just practice that now in your head. And the reason I get the participants to practice saying those dates in their head is because, again, this one is very easy for them to reel off because they know it's the right one. The others, they're having to make them up. So you don't want them to make it obvious, like they go, 1982, 2005, 1985, and so on and so forth. It would be too obvious, so you don't want that. So I say just take a moment to practice it in your head, and when you're ready, okay, in fact, I'm not even going to look at you. I'm just going to listen to the sound of your voice. I close my eyes, they reel off the dates, and I can tell them exactly what that date is. And as a follow-up, in fact, I very rarely do the first part without the second part. It's not always possible to add a coin into a pile. So yes, sometimes I just do the original. But if I'm going to do the coin version, I almost always follow it up with the date part. It's too good not to do. As the first time you'll try it out, you'll agree with me, and you'll see, yes, I'm not going to do the first part without the second. It's a bit of a give me effect, really, because the coin is involved so early, and it's such a knockout follow-up. And also, it gets away from the logic puzzle aspect of the thing, because now it's just about them and their reactions, and it seems to be, which is what all good mentalism should be. It's just two people talking and one revealing what the other is thinking or what the other's done or what have you. And so the essence of that is distilled into the final part of this Tequila Hustler. It's probably occurred to you that this would be a great trick to do on the phone, and of course it is. So the first time I ever taught this in a lecture a couple of years ago was the first time anyone had seen, apart from some very close friends of mine, had seen it. The first time people that I didn't really know, magicians I didn't really know. And the number of them that emailed me later to say they were literally doing it on the phone on the way home from the lecture. They were so excited about it. They were phoning people up to try it on them. And now, of course, one of the reasons that in the beginning, that when I say is the coin in this hand, I don't like to introduce the idea of right and left, because the fact it's in the right or the left is actually a part of the method, and the further I can keep them away from thinking about method, the better for me when I'm performing material, and this is no exception. So that's why I don't ask them, is the coin in your right hand? I say, is the coin in this hand, and indicate the hand, and then the second question is, did you swap hands? However, of course, that's not an option if someone's on the phone, or if you're doing it over social media, or IM, or one of the other ways that we communicate with each other on an almost constant basis nowadays. So in that case, you are going to have to say, is the coin in your right hand, yes or no? And I actually think probably a coin would be the, I wouldn't necessarily do it with a coin if I was doing it over the phone. Again, I would get them thinking away from method by saying, is there anything really unusual that you can pick up that's nearby? And they might say, yes, I've got a zucchini, or I've got a small idol of a Buddha with a cactus in his, sat on a cactus, or I don't know what they might say. But anything that they can, and the thing is, of course, they don't have to be able to hide it in their hand because you're not present. So as long as they can hold it in their hand, it seems that would be suitable. So I generally try and don't say, oh, have you got a coin? I say, have you got anything to hand? Have you got a coffee cup? Have you got a pen? Take off your watch. Are you wearing a ring? So, a lot of people don't generally sit around at home with a pocket full of coins. They're normally in a bowl somewhere with their wallet or what have you. So just whatever's to hand is what I tend to use. So, and of course, not only is it good for those environments, but it's great for a group of people as well. So not only can you do it one-on-one, you can do it for multiple people. And in fact, Colin McLeod, a very good friend of mine, has a handling which is called Tequila Hustler Party. And without going into all the details, he uses an idea that it's an older idea, but he's applied it brilliantly here, where as you're asking the 3 or 4 people, is the coin in this hand, is it in that hand? All you do is your hand is against your leg and you're lifting your finger up or your finger down. So, your finger is extended if the answer is yes, it's bent in if the answer is no. So it's that simple. So, and basically for doing it for a group, it's a very fun thing to do. And of course, you might be thinking, well, it can be done with other objects other than on the phone. In person it can be done with other objects, and I have played with multiple variations. So in Starbucks, I've done it where there's 2 cups upside down, and they've hidden a sugar packet underneath. So I turn around and I say, okay, is it under this one, yes or no? And then I say swap or don't swap, and then there's always kind of lots of motion of the cups as people try and put you off. So that's another option. I've done it at a party where someone hid a sock inside one of their 2 shoes, and we used that as the props. I've done it with 2 people. So instead of having the 2 hands, I did it with 2 girls at a party, and the olive was in one of their mouths. Yes, it was that kind of party. So I used the mouths as the hands. That's a bizarre statement to make if ever there was one in the explanation of a magic trick. And then I used the olive as the coin, and so it worked that way. So just a little bit of imagination will tell you that there are many other ways of doing it. I also had a little mini water pistol that I found online, a few cents for a pack of 10. And if you fill that with water or cider, you can have your back turned, do the whole Tequila Hustler thing, and then at the end, because you know which hand the water pistol is in, so I say, okay, what I want you to do is open your hand, the hand with the water pistol in, get ready to fire it, and then turn the other hand, so they're holding this little water pistol, turn the other hand into a fake gun. And you're going to shoot one of those guns in my ear right now. I'll close my eyes, shoot the gun that's in your right hand. So of course they're going to shoot the mime gun, the pretend gun. The inference being that had you not got it correct, then the water pistol would have shot a load of water or milk or whatever, whiskey in your ear. I've also played around with all kinds of other variations involving jewelry and da-da-da-da-da-da. If you want to do use a finger ring and then maybe do a pendulum thing afterwards. Tequila Hustler basically is a nice lead-in and a strong lead-in to a lot of possible mentalism which can follow it. One other variation I will mention more specifically because I've used it quite a lot, and in fact at one time I was doing it a great deal. It involves a banknote, and it's very similar to the coin one. So basically you get from someone, you say to them, just take out a banknote, so a $1 bill, and they fold it in half, into quarters, into eighths, and then I take it from them, and I say, what I'd like you to do is I'd like you to take the banknote, put it behind your back, hide it in either your hands, and then put your hands in your pockets so that there's no way I could know. And then we'll take it from there. You ready to go? I give them the note back. Now, of course, all I've done is I've switched the note for one that was already in my pocket. So I have a note already in my pocket. Originally, I used to do this, and the note was tucked under my belt at the back. So I would have it just tucked under my belt so that there was nothing in my hands. And then I would do the same thing. I would take the banknote from them, and I'd say, hide it behind your back. And then all I would do is I would pull the other one out and switch it in. And then after a while, I thought, that's ridiculous. I just need to put it in my pocket and switch it in my pocket. So always thinking, see, always thinking. So this one starts here, and this has a serial number, which I know. That starts in my pocket. They take this one out, they fold it up, they fold it into eighths, and then all I do is I take this, and I take it from at fingertips. I say, let me show you what to do. Let me just grab the note for a minute. I put it behind my back. Behind my back, I put it into this hand, And I say, what I want you to do is I want you to put it in either hand, bring your hands out in fists so I can't see anything, and put your hands in your pockets. You ready? Okay. And so then I just take the banknote out and I hand it back to them the same way they gave it to me, kind of at fingertips, but now I've switched in this banknote. So now instead of doing the coin in hand where the hand's right in front of you, I say, okay, hands behind your back and keep your hands in your pockets. So I can't even get a glimpse of what might be in there. So this time, as always, I then go into the same questions. Is it in this pocket? So, and if they want, so sometimes they just take their hands out. They leave it in. Sometimes they keep their hands in. I leave it up to them. So is the note in this pocket, yes or no? Yes, it is. Great. I'll turn away, hands behind your back, put it in the other pocket. Did you swap pockets, yes or no? And again, exactly what it is that they've done. And then as the follow-up, much like with the coin, I say, okay, open up the banknote, and I want you to do this for me. I want you to read out the serial number, and any of the numbers, just change it. So let's say the number was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and you want to change the fourth one, you'll just read out 1, 2, 3, 7, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. But you can just change any of them in any, only change one though, because if you change more than one, there's no way I'll get it. Now, of course, I would absolutely get it because I know exactly what the serial number is. But I don't want to make the claim too great. So, because bear in mind, the premise of this routine is that I'm somehow analysing, either vocally or body language, and it's up to you how you choose to do that. For me, it's vocally. I'm analysing how they lie and how they tell the truth. And having found out exactly how they lie from the earlier part of the routine, I'm now using that knowledge to inform me when they are lying about a number. The effect is not that I can read their mind and tell them what, in this instance, what this number is. So they would read out L281439777, and so on. And of course, I know that they switched the 1 for the 4. So, and I have played it both ways. You could either just say, I know you switched that digit, the one that you said was the 4. It's not a 4, is it? And I could leave it there. Or I could say, okay, and I think you switched it from either a 1 or a 2, is that right? And they'll say, yes, it was a 1. So again, I play it by ear with the person. It's very much a vibe thing. I don't want to make claims that are too bold in this instance. So, I could have them read out and change every number and tell them what it was. But, I think that's too powerful an effect for this, for the environments of this performance. So I thought I'd tell you about that one and share the method with it because, again, it's a very powerful piece that I've used a lot, and I just kind of swings in and out of regularity for me. So I was using this for months and months and months, and then I probably haven't done it until the recording of this download for 2 or 3 months. And I tend to use the coin thing all the time at the minute, but I'm sure, for whatever reason, I'll pull this out of the back of my mind at some gig somewhere in the next couple of weeks, and that's it. I'll be doing it all the time again. So, but they're both very powerful. One final thing I'd like to mention is I want to thank my good friend Michael Murray, who originally helped me put out the booklet called Tequila Hustler, and who is not only a good friend to me, but also a very fine and brilliant mentalist. In fact, in the original booklet we put out, he has a fantastic idea called White Lie, where not only do you do the Tequila Hustler thing, but you do a follow-up using the same person, where a second participant gets involved, and they try and read the person as well. And in doing that, they cue you as to whether they were lying or telling the truth the first time, so you know definitively. Whereas in my method, the original Tequila Hustler methodology, what happens is you infer that you knew whether they were lying or telling the truth. With Michael's clever addition, you definitely know whether they are lying or telling the truth. And also in that original booklet, I want to thank Peter Turner, who put in a great thing called Hero or Villain, who Turnerified it. Is that a word? Turnerified it in the way only he can. So it became more about them as a hero or them as a villain rather than anything to do with which hand the coin was in, as is his brilliant way too. So thanks to those gentlemen who, all 3 gentlemen, Colin, Michael and Peter, for contributing to the original thing. And especially thank you to you for buying this download, because this is one of the most fun effects I've ever performed. And although I know that the method for it seems so startlingly obvious once you know, when you consider it's taken mentalists, myself included in that group, since the original was published in the 70s till now to come up with this method. So although, you will read Mark L's Tequila Hustler and, my name is attributed as the creator of this effect, I think I view it more like a discovery. I think it was just lucky that it was me who discovered it. But eventually, I think someone would have discovered this methodology because it's too good not to exist and too good not to have been found at some point. So, you know, I feel happy that it was me who discovered it, but I think someone would have found it eventually anyway because it's just such a lean and streamlined version of the effect. So, yeah, as I'm saying, thanks once again for buying the download, and please do try this out. If you're like me and like a lot of us, we buy, watch, and don't perform. Make this one of the exceptions. Actually get out and perform this. And as I said in the introduction, if you use this once, you'll use it for the rest of your life. Cheers.
So I pretty much stick strictly to the original method outlined by Mark Elsden. There's only a couple of tweaks that I implement and put in place. Now, the psychology of a routine like that is though it's 50-50. And I want to show what a 50-50 looks like to then up the ante. So I play this game where they put in the hands to start with, and it really doesn't matter if I get it right or wrong, because the very first thing that I say is I'm doing this just to gauge how you think. Now remember, I feel the best mentalism is the kind that's like the trick that cannot be explained, in the sense that the participants don't know where it's going. So the first time I give them a coin, they mix it up, they bring the hands out. And it's literally just a guess. There's a few things that I can work in my favour. The nose might point towards the hand that it's in. There's a couple of outs that you can use, but I really don't use them. I just at that point say this is just me gauging how you think. So the first thing that I do is I look at them, and they'll often look at the exact opposite hand. So I then touch, and when I touch the hand that I believe it's in, they open the hand, it's either going to be there or it's not. Remember what I said, it doesn't make a difference. This is showing them a 50-50. So what I say is, okay, so it's the exact opposite, and I think that you think slightly differently to the norm. I think I've got this, let's go again, I'm going to be 100% from now. If it hits, you see, I think I've got a feel for how you think. Now that was only a 50-50, so let's up the ante. And now once I've framed it as though this were a 50-50, let's up the ante, we go again. And this is where I just traditionally use the Mark Elsden method for the next couple of games. On the last game, and this is important, I now feel like I know them, right? And they feel like I know them. So when they bring their hands out and I say, you're not going to say anything out loud, I say to them, be honest, you were contemplating putting the coin in your pocket, right? And I smile and laugh, which often gets a giggle from them where they say, I was thinking about it for a second. And that almost seems like a little hit within itself. But not only that, even if they didn't, they'd probably laugh and they'd go, no, I didn't. I say, you did subconsciously. And they'll smile at that. Just a little moment, I feel, it's really nice theatrically from a choreography point of view. The last game is the most difficult. And this is where I feel that you need to implement a certain amount of psychology. Now, you can have an out. I don't ever have an out for this. If I say to them, scream the answer in your mind to me, if they look like they're tensing up, they're normally saying no. If they look like they're relaxed, they're saying yes in their head. It's as stupid as that, right? They'll be screaming it. So I say to them, this time don't answer out loud, scream it in your head. So if they look like this, I know it's a no. If they're relaxed, I know it's a yes. And I just take their answers as thus. And the last tip, the last subtlety that brings all of this together, a game like this can be very confusing for people. So I break it down and I make it easy by connecting a mnemonic to it. And the mnemonic I connect is a hero and a villain. And what I say is heroes are synonymously known for telling the truth, whereas villains are notoriously known for lying. And I let them pick a character at the start of each game. So I say you can stay with the same character or you can change. And that makes it easier for them not only to A, break it down, but B, it makes it an easy process for them to remember because there's a mnemonic connected to it. So just a quick statistical run through of bullet points. The first bullet point is you do it with guesswork, just a 50-50. You're upping the ante. You apply the Elsden method. The second time you apply the Elsden method. On the third game, you talk about them contemplating putting it in their pocket. And on the third game, you're asking them to scream it out loud and you're looking for reactions. Another thing to up the ante is you go to hover your hands over the top like this, and if they smile, you've pretty much guessed it. If they don't, you just quickly change. That's all I really added to this, is just performance tips, pacing, taking your time, the hero and the villain for the mnemonics, the 50-50 game at the start to gauge how they think, and then at the end them screaming it in their heads. So I hope you followed this, and I hope you love the performance. So we've taken to the streets of Leeds to read people, and I'm in the Victoria Quarter, and I grabbed a couple of ladies. Hi, I'm Pete. Your name is?
Krishma.
Krishma and Aliyah. Krishma and Aliyah. Now it's essential for everybody at home to know you were literally just grabbed, brought over to me. You know nothing about me other than the fact that I play mind games, and that's it. I don't know anything else about either of you. You've not written anything down. You've not been asked any questions before the camera were rolling. That's essential, right? So I propose we play a little mind game. When I were at school, we'd play this game called Who's Got the Ball? And essentially what it was is we'd stand a line of kids in a procession, a tennis ball would be placed behind the back of the first person, the ball would move up and down the line, and the idea was to guess who had the ball. Now obviously we don't have a procession of people to do this, so we're going to be working with just one of you. Who am I going to work with? You're happy with this? Do you want to hand your bag across? Now, do you have a small object like a coin or I don't need to touch it.
Okay.
Right, I'm going to ask you to place it behind your back, right? Now this is the idea. You're going to mix it up as much as possible. Now again, it's essential for everybody to know, I literally don't know what you're going to do. Keep it behind your back, mix it up as much as you want. This first game's literally just to test the water. So when you're done, you bring your hands out. Are you happy this is random?
Yeah.
Do you want to change? So just spread them out a little bit like this. So it's about gauging you and your reactions and your feelings. Open this one. Right, it's not there. So I think with you, wait a second, you think slightly differently to the curve. Are you left or right-handed?
Right.
Right-handed. So you think slightly differently to the curve. Have you just moved house? You're about to though?
Yeah.
Yes, because it's almost like everything's been turned upside down. I think I've got this and I could do this consecutively every time now. So place them back behind your back and mix them up. And whilst you're mixing them up, listen very carefully to me. This next game, I don't want it to just be a 50-50. Now I know how you think. I have a slight advantage, right? So you're going to get to choose to play a hero or a villain. Now heroes are synonymously known for telling the truth, whereas villains are notoriously known for lying, right? So in your head, select a character and then bring your hands out. And there's a reason why I'm asking you to pick a character. Pull them up. Now the idea is this. If you're a hero, you're always going to tell the truth. If you're a liar, a villain, you're always going to lie, right? So I'll even tell you what questions I'm going to ask you so you can prepare mentally for the answer. So the question, don't answer yet, is the coin in your right hand? So think about how you're going to answer that. So I'm going to ask you, is the coin in your right hand?
Can I answer?
Yeah.
No.
No, okay. I feel I know where it is, but put your hands back behind your back. I'm going to turn away. You don't have to swap. But you can move the coin from whatever hand it's in now to the other hand. I'll look away. Bring your hands back out. So again, staying in character. If you're a hero, you're a hero. If you're a villain, you're a villain. I'm going to ask you, did you change hands? This one. There it is. Can we do it again? Put your hand behind your back. Can we do this again? Do you mind? Again, you can change character this time. It's a new game, right? So you pick a character now. You can stay with the same character or change. And you bring your hands back out like this. You know what questions I'm going to ask you. It's going to be the same. So there's no way that I'm just gauging based on your answers, because the questions are staying consistent, right? Is it in your right hand? Place your hands behind your back. I'm going to look away. You can change hands if you want. Bring them back out. So I'm going to ask you, did you change hands? In your head, tell me where it is. Don't look, scream. This one. Yes. Can we do this one more time? Hands behind your back. Mix them up again. This time you're not going to say anything out loud. You're just going to scream in your head at me. So you can change character. It's a new game. Or you can stay with the previous character. So you bring your hands out. So don't say anything out loud. You understand? Don't say anything. Right? Just scream it in your head. I'm going to ask you the same questions. Is the coin in your right hand? Scream it at me. Put your hands behind your back. You can swap hands if you want. You don't have to. See if I can do this. Did you swap hands? Open this hand. There we go. Haha, perfect. Thank you for helping out, Krishma.